All right, welcome to this video on Onion Part 3. This is practical pathways with objective personality. How can you use objective personality to clarify your life path? So this is part 3 of the Onion Theory video, but definitely focusing a lot more on the objective personality side of things here, at least compared to the previous parts. So basically, why am I diving into the practical pathways? So what I see a lot in the objective personality Facebook group, as well as just in general, whether it's Discord or other avenues and places, and talking to people in real life about objective personality, I do sense that there are some people getting lost in the sauce, in the sense that I think it's interesting to, let's say, get better typing accuracy, or to talk about the different celebrities or whoever is getting typed, or even your own type or your family members, and kind of look at people's saviors and demons and whatever the psychological concept is that's applying to the situation. I think it's very interesting, but what people kind of are getting lost in is how it can actually substantially help them in their life, in their circumstances. Sometimes, like previously, I think it was, this year, someone had died who, uh, was studying the system. And so it's, there are other things, there are other people who, let's say, in spite of learning psychology, they're not able to make that connection as to how it's applicable to your life. Now, I don't really need to bring up drastic examples of people to do that. Like, it goes with anything, whenever you're studying, when I'm studying engineering, it's like sometimes it's hard to make a connection between studying computer engineering and building a bridge, right? And so those are two different things. And so, like, I think it's beneficial to look at what we're studying here with psychology and try to ground it more in the practical pathways of what people can actually do to utilize this knowledge. Like, what is this knowledge good for? What is the wisdom or the experience of learning psychology? What is that helpful for? So from what I've seen in the Facebook groups and in general, like, there are people who are lost in the sauce of objective personality or any typing system, any psychology, typology system. People are getting very excited about being able to categorize people or categorize themselves in a certain way, maybe even annoyed at certain aspects about themselves or others. But what's getting lost is the actual practicality and the actual relevance and the significance and importance of how we can relate these psychological models to making real changes in our lives and the lives of the people around us, just making better decisions. Well, a good thing about objective personality is we have very strong typing statistics and reproducibility. It's not just Dave and Shan who know how to type. They know much better than other people, but a lot of people in the community are able to type in statistically significant ways, where we can consistently type people and get some alignment on what we're seeing as other people's type. And so there's something objective here. And so there's a really big opportunity to use objective personality in a way that's not just like, hey, we can categorize you, but now that we know your category, now that we know what category you have, can we use that for something more significant? If you go up to Stephen Colbert and you say, hey, you're an INFP, sleep last, like, can you actually use that information to help the guy out? Like, does it, if you ran into somebody and told them they're OP type, like, how much could you actually help them? Could you actually make any kind of significant change in their life? What do we have? What do we have to show for the psychological reproducibility and the statistical significance of the scientific side of objective personality? We have the science down. Now, what is the advice, and what are the tips? What are the ways that we can actually use this information to help ourselves and others? Also, other systems do have validity, and we need to start reckoning with that, because some of these other systems, let's say Enneagram, they might be more useful to know. They may help people a lot more. Spiral dynamics or whatever else, right? MBTI, the thing is, MBTI is a more simple model in terms of only having 4 coins, but people are running with it. So how can we stop getting lost in all the complexity in objective personality and actually start making different choices or better choices? How do we go about decision making now that we have the information? And yeah, everything I touched on is basically the impractical aspect, and as well as the traps of objective personality. It can be overly complex, and it's hard to get the rubber to meet the road. But one of the big reasons I'm sharing this particular video is that I've discovered a coaching methodology that works. I mean, it's not rocket science for sure, but basically whatever the hell I'm talking about is going to be whatever has been working for me. And, I have some coaching clients as well. It's definitely still early days on the coaching methodology, but it is working and it is showing promise. But one of the big issues is that the system itself is so complex where there's so many things going on that the upside, while it's high, the initial friction to start making some changes can be high as well. If for nothing else, this is a good talk out session of how do we kind of practically apply the learnings of objective personality into our lives. So with all that being said, let's, why objective personality, as awesome and amazing as a system it is, and statistically significant and all that good stuff, let's figure out a practical way to keep moving forward with that information to make smarter, better decisions. So the idea of this video is to help people find a practical pathway for yourself, using your OP type and using whatever knowledge you have in psychology, and how can you consistently and reliably reproduce some sense of direction for yourself. So here are the topics for Onion Theory Part 3, which is basically the practical pathways with objective personality. Basically, we're going to be covering layer 4, which is a directional view of psychology. Where does this fit into the larger theory? Provide context for various psychological tools as well as examples, and then kind of take a look at how the difference is between looking at psychology, in a self-guided way versus looking at it with others, and what are some of the differences there, as well as key takeaways for how we can think about carving a path forward with objective personality or really any psychological tool. So if you can recall, in part 1 of the Onion Theory, I included these 4 layers that I'm going to be getting into, which is so the 4 layers of Onion Theory, or the layers of psychology, it starts with the individual psyche, followed by the expanded views. Those were in part 1. And then part 2, we covered social psychology. And then here it says future video, but it's already done. And this one is meant to be a practical pathways video for ordinary people. What is kind of like the OI path, right? So what we do have is a predictable model for personal growth. Now, it is still under development, to be totally real with you, but it's something that I think is worth working on moving forward, because we want to start not only contextualizing the knowledge we have with OP, but also experimenting and experiencing what tangible value we can get from having a model that is this powerful. So objective personality is a very powerful model. Now, how can we start using it to start getting some reps in the OI, or the pathways for using the model for actual real life growth and in reality? So yeah, just a brief recap going into layer 1, that's the individual self. You got your different, essentially Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or spiral dynamics, whichever one you want to look at. But it's from a self perspective of survival into thriving into higher consciousness. So layer 2 is looking at psychology from an expansive perspective, where you're just expanding your view of what you're looking at in psychology, where you might be zooming in on a particular system, where it might be objective personality here, and then you might be integrating multiple systems, like including Enneagram and socionics or MBTI along with objective personality, and then you're just zooming out, right? So again, you're expanding your consciousness, whether it's with yourself or with the systems that you're taking in. You're expanding your consciousness based on what you're curious about. Okay, yeah. So the previous video, if you haven't watched it, you can watch it. It was part 2 or layer 3, which is on the social psychology side of things. And I used spiral dynamics because I think it's a very suitable system from a social psychology perspective to start understanding how other people around you are thinking and feeling, how other people see the world, because you may be in one or more, probably multiple of these levels within spiral dynamics. And then the people around you are in differing levels as well. And people can inhabit multiple stages of spiral dynamics. Something like this, it is good to keep in mind. Alternatively, you could look at people as having different class dynamics or different cultures, different languages. There are so many things that keep us in different ways of thinking. Our minds work differently based on which society we're in, what things we tend to tolerate or see as normal. All right. And then we have layer 4 here, which is a directional view. So this is what we're going to be talking about in this video. This is basically saying which way do you want to go based on your knowledge and your wisdom or whatever you've gathered from your experiences. Which way are you going to go, and how are you going to stop getting, stuck in the mud? How are you going to get yourself out of the handcuffs, basically, of reality? Here's another image of different directions. Do you go up, down, left, right, across? And here I'm including, hey, do you have a moral compass, a truth compass? How's that compass being determined? How can we kind of adjust these things? Again, it's about not consistently making the same mistakes. Just like in The Matrix, Neo had to decide, when Trinity asked him, like, hey, you've already lived that life. Do you want to try something different? Do you want to go somewhere else? Do you want to, make a different choice? Or do you want to keep making the same choice and keep exploring what the world you're already in? Sometimes that's the right answer. So major steps into finding a practical pathway here is, you have your life problems, and you may be aware of objective personality, or, again, it could be any psychology system or concept or whatever it is. For those of us in here, we're studying objective personality, so I'm using that. But yeah, you have life problems, then you suddenly get aware of, oh, wow, there's this new concept. And then you're maybe actively solving your problems by learning objective personality. It's like, wow, I have demon sensing, or, oh, wow, I must have demon sleep, or something like that. And you're using it to actively solve your problems. But, that would be step 3. And then maybe it works. Maybe it's like, oh, I just needed to reflect on this. I wrote a journal entry, or I wrote someone an email, and all of a sudden my life is getting better, or whatever problem I was stuck in is starting to go away. So I'm enjoying a simpler life. But then, of course, you still have problems, and there are still issues, and you might be stuck in a bad job, a bad relationship. There may be a lack of new things in your life, something like this, loneliness, or whatever. Or there may be some annoying people that are consistently butting their head into your life. So your life still has problems. And then you just have to repeat steps 2 through 5, and you just go deeper and deeper. And maybe there are things that are learning. This is very much the consume way of dealing with life is, when you're hit with tough problems, you just want to learn more and do more. But, depending on your level of activity, if you're blast play or something, you may be exercising more reps of going through the cycle faster, where you're learning through a different method. Yeah, at the end of the day, you may be looking to other systems. Like when you're done learning through objective personality or whatever the other things are that you're looking into, it may not solve your problems. Like for me, when it comes to politics, I did have to look at some other systems and ways of thinking to really understand what's going on there. Yeah, when it comes to trauma, you may have to learn something else. When it comes to family dynamics, there may be other things to look into. And so you want to carry this type of approach with whatever life is hitting you, right? So it just generally goes from like you're feeling some pain or fear or anxiety, and then you become aware of a new way of doing things or learning things. So you're either going to blast or consume or whatever to figure out what's the next thing I need to know in order to have any hope of resolving this problem. And then you'll actually go ahead and resolve the problem. And that'll lead to peace and prosperity until, of course, you're dealing with a pain again, and it could be something as weird as like, oh, wow, like my family and friends don't get it. Like I feel so conscious, or I feel like I have things figured out, but then the people around me don't know what they're doing. So basically the cycle continues and we learn objective personality or any other system, and we just keep going through that. So it's basically your competence consciousness cycle, where you're starting off as unconscious and competent and you end up unconsciously competent. First, you need to gain the awareness, then you start gaining the skills, right? Step by step. And the truth is that you go through this so many times, and that's just the way it goes, right? And it goes once, twice, 3 times, till you basically realize it's a cycle of just going from unconscious competence to conscious competence to, it just keeps going. Sometimes people like to think that they are just very good, just unconsciously competent or consciously competent, and they just want to stay there. But what they don't realize is that the house is burning down, the neighborhood is burning down, the world is burning down. Like right now, at least in this week of me recording this, there's some crazy stuff going on in the news as usual. Not even going to get into it. You could totally be unconscious of that. There may be things under your control or not, and you just expand your ability to produce based on where you currently are at. So anyway, this cycle of consciousness and competence just keeps going. And sometimes we don't want to expand our consciousness too much, because then we realize we're incompetent. There might be some not my job energy going on, but at least for me as a number one, I tend to think of too many things as under my purview or under my responsibility. And so I do feel kind of incompetent when it comes to solving, let's say, the world's problems at large. That's a very tough thing, That's why they mention, the weight of the world. It's a tough thing to carry, and I think it's good to really know where your mode of operation is and judge yourself based on that. But anyway, basically the cycle of consciousness goes like this, and same for the cycle of competence. I'm showing this again because that's just what happens with the major steps of learning any psychology system and then applying it to your life. It's going to give you more consciousness, but it's also going to expose some incompetence, and it just goes deeper and deeper, layer after layer. Okay, so here's practical examples. So again, I'm going to use myself as an example here. Yeah, so like let's say the problem initially is that I'm procrastinating, and then I'm aware of the ESFP archetype. I learn of the OE and OI imbalance. So I decide to apply more NI or OI focus and start lightening the load of the gather function, which in my case is SE. But yeah, that's, any ESFP is going to discover this on some level, is, to live a bit less of the kind of ADHD life, or to live a little bit less of that chaotic life, and to start focusing a little bit more on what is within your control. So that leads to more peace, less chaos, more predictability and order. But of course, some days and some weeks pass by and you're still struggling with procrastination. And you're like, well, the OEOI situation isn't enough. It's not really doing it for me. I'm still procrastinating. And like I probably did with this video. So I have some awareness that I have blast last, right? And so the way I would kind of coach myself for this is just, first of all, acknowledge and be aware that I have blast last, and it's going to be hard for me to talk. It's going to be hard for me to produce something specifically at a certain time, especially if there's no deadline or something like that. So yeah, I'd still be struggling with getting things done, things like this. But anyway, the awareness of the blast last would help me, give myself some grace and then go ahead and do it, because I'm blasting right now, or a blast last version of blasting, give me a break. Yeah, it's but basically, that's how, someone like me would get over procrastination, is just be aware of it, give yourself some slack, get it done, start noticing it. The more awareness you have, the more you tend to be able to accept yourself for who you really are, what you're really doing and what you're really failing at, with appropriate level of humility, you can actually just get back to work. Especially when someone like me isn't feeling bad about being blast last, then I can actually do the blasting because I'm not too busy beating myself up over it. And then, yeah, some more examples is to be still struggling with getting things done. Maybe there's a long-term problem there. So I learn about trauma. Maybe there's some trauma holding me back. So I go to therapy, or whoever this ESFP is does do those things. And then they get some peace and still have issues, of course. And so the cycle continues. So sometimes the answer is going to be in the 9 coins or the 11 coins. And sometimes you're going to have to learn some new concept or theory or system in order to get the learnings, get the wisdom, get the understanding, and then you're able to move forward from there. But once you have that understanding, it is just infinitely easier to take the next step, because you're not taking that step under some like Nike just do it kind of grit and hard work. You're able to just easily adapt and move into the necessary actions that you have to take, because it just becomes obvious and you're riding the wave, not the tidal wave, but you're just riding the wave. And you're able to, through your own understanding of yourself, you're able to do what's necessary. So here's a process that I've basically uncovered, which is, I'm sure it's the same as a lot of stuff out there, right? So you start off in this bliss, peaceful state, but then you're struck with pain and fear as you are a human. You become aware of those issues. You start getting some inklings, some awareness of, hey, there might be a way out. I either go talk to someone, DE, or I learn something through OE or whatever. I consult my own OI. However the hell it happens, you start getting some inklings of a way out. And it becomes clear. There's a call to action, and you hear it. And so basically your journey begins, it continues, and it ends through that action that you're taking in order to move back into your peaceful state, to conquer that pain, to conquer your fears. And you get the boon, which is alluding to the hero's journey, which I'm going to cover. But yeah, you're benefiting from an improved life at the cost of going through the journey. And yeah, you have to recover from that. And so step 9 is to just repeat steps 1 through 8 continuously. So anyway, that's the process. It doesn't really change too much from that. But here's the hero's journey, because this is, I'm not going to look at this slide too long. There's so many freaking words on it. It's useful to look into the mythology of hero's journey and to get some inspiration as far as like how complex or how specific things can get in terms of what your particular journey entails. It can be any number of things, and there can be obstacles as well as, here there's like a meeting with a goddess. That sounds interesting. But understanding that you have a call to adventure ahead of you, and to work your way through that, and to cross the threshold, cross the necessary obstacles, and to make it through every step of your journey, it's going to take a lot. You're going to have to do some things alone, and you're going to have to do some things with others. Here's another depiction of the hero's journey. You're going from some ordinary world to a special world and then back. And so, yeah, I mean, you guys have probably heard enough about the hero's journey. If you want me to do a video specifically on that, let me know. And it doesn't have to be some crazy thing. There's like a child's drawing probably on what the hero's journey is. So yeah, sometimes there are helpers, there are people out there who are willing to help you, and you face your problems alone or with other people, and then you make it through the pit or some trials and tribulations, or you make it through some kind of hell, and then you return to your ordinary life with the gifts and the rewards and the wisdom of the experience. Here's from Wikipedia just the different things from Campbell as well as Vogler on the hero's journey steps. So hero's journey aside, that's a useful tool to like look at the different aspects of what the journey may entail. So it's good to be able to tell what is the journey that you went through? What was your call to adventure? Did you refuse the call? Did you get supernatural aid? Was there some random woman as a temptress who is the goddess, and throughout your life, have you received ultimate boons? Have you atoned with the Father? What have you done that's similar to this hero's journey thing? Or have you ever felt like a master of two worlds? Have you ever gone through this type of myth in your own life? And do you look forward to doing something like that in the future? Now, this is more of it's definitely invoking imagination a lot more than some other things. But yeah, it's definitely useful to look at your life from more of this mythological perspective to understand that your problems are not, they may be simple, but it may be advantageous to look at them from more imagination driven perspective. Anyway, so we're back to the process. So this is the boring stuff, and that's why we like to mythologize things. And because the process itself is quite simple, but it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And it can be, maybe. Okay, it's not definitely not easy. But yeah, I think the interesting part of the process for me is that there's always inklings of a way out. There's always ideas that you have, intrusive thoughts maybe of, hey, maybe I can get out of this. And, maybe objective personality can help me, or maybe this other system can help me. And, whatever problem you're going through, I promise you there is a way out. It's going to be all right. So yes, the process, it is those 9 steps or whatever, but as you're going through the process, you do become aware of your path, your way, and that is your story. And you can write that story. You can be the author to your own story. And yeah, hopefully there are people there who are able to hold your hand or be there for you in some kind of way. And on some level, I really hope that you are there for yourself, because that's probably the best friend you can have in going through this journey, is to be there for yourself, to love yourself, and to give yourself the opportunity to conquer those pains, conquer those fears, and to achieve that bliss and peace that we also deserve. This section is going to be on balancing your views on objective personality and psychology. So if you don't have a balanced view, here's an opportunity to start balancing it. So a growth path with objective personality. So we're going to cover how to grow with OP by yourself and then with others. So the self-guided part is more your flexi part, where you're going after your objective goals on your own. Of course, you need your basic needs covered before you can conquer the next level. And so this is where you need to deal with the fact that the map is not the territory. Just because you understand and know the model of objective personality, and maybe even, let's say you have an amazing typing record, right? Let's say you're at the 80 or 90 or whatever percent of typing, whatever, it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, are you able to use your knowledge to take the next step in your life? Are you able to go after your goals? Are you able to get to the next place in your life? Are you able to conquer and tame the fears and the pain that you're experiencing? Are you anxious? Are you fearful? Are you depressed? Are you lost? And so you may have some goals around getting through those kinds of negative feelings, negative emotions, negative states of existence. Then we have the stage of consciousness determination, where you have a certain stage of consciousness. Now, for me, I'm starting to get more familiar with what level of consciousness I have, and I can see that there are people way more conscious than me. And so what I'm learning to do is to act my stage. Basically, act your stage of consciousness, because there's no point in pretending you're something, some far off guru that's super high consciousness, like you're God or something. It's not really benefiting you to think that you're super high consciousness. And also in the reverse direction, for some people, like, it doesn't benefit you to see yourself as super low consciousness. Then maybe you're dealing with people who are, just dragging you down, when really that's not where you're supposed to be. Yeah, maybe you're down in the dumps, and maybe, you're a higher consciousness person surrounded by lower consciousness people, and You're spending a lot of time, maybe wasted energy. Maybe you're wasting a lot of energy arguing with people who are lower consciousness than you. And that's not really helping anyone. They say, for example, like, there's no point in arguing with a crazy person. And yeah, that's not like a bigoted thing to say. That is just true. It's not efficient. It's not TE efficient. So anyways, with stage of consciousness, try to, humble yourself and see what, stage of consciousness is. Or if you are too humble, then maybe have some pride, but figure out what, that's where self-awareness comes in, right? Be present. So this is about, again, just being present, observing how you feel about the past and the future. Maybe you're too busy trying to predict the future, or you're too fixated on the past. And while you don't want to ignore either case, maybe you do want to think long term, or maybe you do need to discover your roots in the past. Either way, you need to have some connection with the present. Familiarize yourself with people who are of a level of consciousness above you and below you, so you just kind of know where you are. Like, for example, if I see a fly, I might kill it. And maybe there are people who wouldn't kill a fly, and that's fine. I understand that there are people better than me who would not hurt a fly. Good for you, but it's not who I am, it's not who I am right now. But yeah, there's strengths and weaknesses to each stage of consciousness. Just know that, understand that. The whole point of this bullet point is to be aware of your stage of consciousness, be aware of yourself, and don't make too big of a deal going up or down. Just understand your place in the world as it is right now, and take actions based on where you are right now by being present with yourself as you are now. And basically, okay, so the next one is about approaching non-judgment. Similar to the previous point, basically, don't judge the people below you or above you in terms of like, they're just doing their thing. Everyone's just living their life, right? But let's say there is some violent murderer on the loose, and judging that person negatively. Hey, that person is murdering this person, maybe it's because that person stole money from them or whatever, right? Whether it's justified or not, it's about having non-judgment towards what's happening to these people who are just acting their level of consciousness. Some people may, let's say someone was robbing a grocery store because they're starving, and then, maybe you judge that, maybe you don't, it's just understanding that people are doing the things they're doing for reasons, right? Maybe someone is choosing not to kill animals at the expense of not feeding other people, It can be about, they're trying to save the animals so much that other people are starving. And how do you not judge that? It's like, hey, if you're starving, maybe you should eat animals or something. So basically not judging people for what they're doing, but at the same time, you want to maintain preferences. You want to still maintain your ability to say, yeah, I'm not vibing with this person, I'm not vibing with that, or like, I'm not drawn to be around this person for that long. Anyway, while you're non-judgmental, you can still maintain your preferences as to what you like to be around, what you don't like to be around. There was a case where, someone's acting weird on Facebook. Maybe I still choose to block them, right? Oh, but I don't block people. I'm not judgmental. It's all right. It's okay to block people. Some people are just not vibing with you, and that's okay to still maintain your preferences. And it doesn't have to be with hatred. You don't block out of hatred. You just block because it's just not matching your vibration, not matching your energy. It doesn't have to be that dramatic when you're judging someone or not judging someone. You can just simply withdraw your resources, withdraw your attention. You can block people on social media. That's fine. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. Finally, you want to seek feedback. So this is one of the issues that I run through, where I can do a lot of things by myself, but I still need to get some triangulation. Someone like maybe a therapist or a coach, or I have, for example, a physical therapist where they're helping me do a lot of these ankle exercises for my Achilles tendon injury. So that is very, very helpful, where I'm getting feedback in that arena of the physical consistency, so that I can get a routine going there, because that's what I struggle with. So I seek feedback in that arena. So yeah, just keep in mind, self-guided, there are strengths and weaknesses to this approach. You can also choose to go along your growth path with a friend, a group, or a coach. Even if it's about objective personality or whatever it is, you can do it by yourself. You can do it with a friend. You could do it with a coach or a therapist or whoever, right? So one of the main benefits about working with others is that you have the ability to share your goals. So on one hand, it could be an individual goal that you share. On another hand, it could be a team goal that you both have, or all of you have together. We had this group where we did some things for New Year's, where we had an accountability group, right? And we all did our own goals and we shared it with each other, and that was really great. But yeah, working towards something together. Maybe you tell your friend, "Hey, I'm working on my journal," or something. And maybe your friend is also working on journaling or vlogging or starting a YouTube channel or something, right? So you're working together, and you can keep each other motivated while carving out a piece for yourself. So if you have those shared goals, always make sure that there's something that you have control over, because sometimes when you do share a goal with a company or this or that, like a group, you may lose yourself, which is why the last point is to seek individuation. Because for the self-guided, you're maybe lacking feedback, and for the group or coach situation, you may be losing sight of your own self. What's in it for you? Sharing goals is very nice because you can work towards something together. Even if it's your own individual goal, you're able to get some energy off of the other person, and that's really helpful, especially if you have the friend's energy, right? So here we have stages of consciousness. So basically, you want to tolerate multiple stages of consciousness. I've had friends who are way higher in consciousness to me, but they tolerate being with me for whatever reason. And so it's something to really appreciate in others, whatever stage other people are at. Sometimes people are maybe more achieving, or they're goal oriented, or maybe they're religious or something else. And there's always something to appreciate about other people and to tolerate people of other stages. And when you're in a group dynamic, or you're having friends, family, you can appreciate that people are operating on different levels of consciousness, and that's okay. So maybe you care about some issue, maybe it's a political issue or something, or some work issue, and someone just doesn't see eye to eye. Maybe they're not empathizing, maybe you're not able to empathize. And so just tolerating that people are thinking on different wavelengths. You don't always have to be the same level of consciousness as those around you. You can learn from each other and just go through many iterations of processing things together, of respecting the way other people approach life, and respecting the differences you have, and recognizing your own growth or lack thereof, recognizing your level of consciousness, whether it's too high or too low compared to your friends. For me, one of the big things, story time, I guess, for me, one of the things is that I've had friends who are very, very compassionate, and I could never understand why they're so nice, or why they're willing to let go, why they're willing to forgive. I have a friend who had a pretty messed up boss, and I'm like, how are you still working there? And it's just because this guy is very, forgiving and able to look the other way, or some other things like this. It's just, he understands that there's, the business needs or something. They're able to work even in a position where they're not getting the better end of the deal. And for me, that was a lot to tolerate, but some people are able to do that. Eventually, I was able to kind of respect my friend's approach to how he deals with other people. Yeah, so it's just tolerating and understanding that people are going to react to different situations differently based on their level of consciousness, based on their level of compassion and values. Finally, you want to use discernment. While you are tolerating people of different stages of consciousness, you still want to exercise your right to be a part of something or not be a part of something. When I went to the park a few days ago, there are some dogs fighting, and this dog owner was kicking the dog. And I just kind of I went the other way because I don't know anything about dogs, and I didn't think I could really add anything helpful to that situation. And I think there are other people there who were able to help, but it's something that just for me is not something it's not within my wheelhouse of something to do. So it's able to use discernment, just understand where am I needed, where am I not needed. That's not really the best example. It doesn't put me in that positive of a light, but yeah, just exercise discernment in terms of like, where are you needed? What is your role in society? And this is why I think it is important to know yourself. Is, are you the guy who's able to break up a fight between dogs? Are you the guy who's able to break up a bar fight? What is your role in society? I know I'm double masculine, but there are some things I just don't want to be a part of. Just because I have masculine SE at the top doesn't mean I want to go to fight a war. I'm not freaking Jocko, and there's differences between people. Anyway, lastly, of course, I already touched on this, seek individuation. So on one hand, I think being with others, there are so many opportunities with being with others, but yeah, you can get lost in it. You can lose yourself. You can lose your individuality. But again, let me just touch on the other side of it, where, yeah, you are in need of feedback. If you're just going alone in everything that you do, then you probably need feedback and you probably need help or a friend or something. Yeah, so I think both paths are definitely good to walk down. They are definitely not mutually exclusive. So in different areas in your life, you want to do things by yourself and you want to do things with others. Don't go too hard in one direction, unless that's what you want. So now we're going to move on to what's practical, some practical takeaways, and then we're going to wrap up. So we're going to look at objective personality with the self. So some of these things are just practical things to take away from objective personality and the system, as well as the community and the ideas that are in circulation that I'm looking at that are very advantageous. There are a lot of powerful psychological tools to be using in objective personality. And so some of these are to use the 9 coins, use the 11 coins, discover the parts, discover how they fit into your life or how you can make them fit into your life. And of course, there are other systems which, you're totally free to go learn other systems and bring those concepts into your life. So that would be the related thing. And then there's a typing procedure, specifically in objective personality, as well as maybe some other systems. There is always going to be a procedure, how you go about categorizing. Even if you're studying psychology, maybe you're trying to learn how to diagnose someone for psychopathy or ADHD or autism, something like this. And so there's always going to be a procedure. And that's touching on the next point, which is the overarching science game. This is not really some uneducated, quick, dumb thing to be doing. When you're typing someone, when you're typing yourself, you're actually engaging in science. And this is something that whether you want to or not, the best approach to actually getting results out of the typing process and the categorizing process, the best way to get results is to approach it with a scientific method of some kind. Whatever your scientific method, do science. Okay. So you can't really get away from the science game because it is attached to the result. Can these intuitive concepts have some bearing in reality? Does it have some shred of reality in it? Otherwise, the category itself is useless. So for me, I have countless examples of my blast last, of my, demon, feminine, and I. I have so many examples with this so that I'm able to use these coins to help me in my life. And I really hope that you guys can use your coins, if you have them, to improve your life. It's a huge opportunity and it's a hugely beneficial aspect to this system in particular. So the next bullet point is hero's journey. So I could probably do a whole video about this specifically. Now, I've been covering things broadly because it's under the lens of the onion theory, but I can do a specific video on this. So let me know in the comments what you specifically want to hear about. So the next examples are just ideas in circulation within the objective personality community, as well as, Dave and Shan, things that they're talking about. We covered the hero's journey as well as growing and giving. So these are things that we're just doing. We're going through the cycle of the hero's journey multiple times, perhaps. And we're also learning to grow ourselves, grow our consciousness as well as giving and contributing back to society in some way, shape, or form. Our consciousness is expanding. Our responsibility is also expanding, unless it's not. Maybe you are honing in on what specifically you want to be conscious of, what specifically you want to be responsible for. It could go broad, it could go deep. So that's consciousness and responsibility. And then finally, we have the error log. So this is one of the big tools to be using if you're studying objective personality, is to start noticing which coins are you consistently seeing come up in different situations that you're going through your journaling, through some type of log mechanism where, okay, if you shouted at someone, if you're angry, if you cried, if you're sad, if you struggle to get out of bed, if you're going through negative emotions and you're not writing it down, then you may lose sight of why these things are happening. There may be consistent reasons as to why you're going through a lot of issues. Perhaps it's the same type of issue that you're going through day after day, week after week. You may be in a very dark period of your life. And yes, things like the error log can really help illuminate what those sources are that are causing your problems. Next, we want to learn the limitations of OP, which is, I think, very, very beneficial to using OP. That once we learn what it can and can't do, it's easier to use completely. So when we understand that objective personality is not inherently tied to trauma, we understand that we may need to go to therapy for that. We may need to talk to a friend for that. Objective personality is talking about basically these 9 coins that do drive certain behaviors, but those behaviors are not the same thing as experiences. There are experiences that we've been through before we got typed. There are experiences we've been through in childhood that shaped who we are. There is an aspect of nurture. It's not all nature. It's not 100% nature. Although some people would argue that it's majority nature. I'm not a person who does that. I think that nurture has roughly an equal participation in shaping who you are. Learning the limitations of OP is about being able to use other systems whenever it's appropriate. It really depends which situation you want to use which tool. Every tool is valid in different situations. Objective personality is a very, very powerful tool for specific situations. And so understanding when it really does coincide with the categories of the 9 coins, then you have something there. But anyway, back to some positives about objective personality. Your journaling has become enhanced. Your self-awareness has become enhanced. And now you have a more powerful set of psychoanalytic tools that you can use primarily on yourself. I think it's much better to use these tools for yourself than on others. I think it has a lot of diminishing returns when you're trying to apply it to other people because you're often missing context. I do think experiences provide much needed context in how we're applying and using those coins. All right. So now there are more practical tips that I've basically uncovered or touched on that are beyond objective personality while still using objective personality as a foundation. So that's a very specific point where when you have a foundation model to base your future insights on, then you'll be able to access much broader insights you'll be able to access a much broader field of vision when it comes to insights that you're drawing in this realm of psychology when you understand objective personality. So basically, beyond objective personality, you're able to not only understand that one system, but new systems become easier to learn and integrate. You have a much better understanding, especially if you've been doing the typing along with Dave and Shan. Your scientific process has leveled up. Your ability to uncover new realities for yourself, or your ability to track reality in a scientific way, has now improved and leveled up. Maybe you're tracking data the way I am. Maybe I need to do a YouTube video about that. There is a lot of scientific data that you're able to access yourself, and you're able to create more data for yourself. Anyway, thanks to objective personality, you're able to draw new insights beyond objective personality because you know when it does have something to do with those 9 coins and when it's something outside of it. So kind of like riding a bike, you're now familiar with the mind. Your mind becomes a tool that's available to you in a way that it wasn't before. You're able to access it in a different kind of way. I'm speaking about this as someone who has learned coding and things like that. Like for me, learning software engineering, I have access to a different part of my mind, and then learning objective personality typing has given me access to another part of my mind in a interesting way. So basically, your mind does get sharper in another way. It's a great skill to have. So with objective personality and using that as a foundation, you just generally have less hubris, more humility. One of the biggest takeaways is that you now have the ability to explore new concepts at a steady pace, as well as you have the ability to recognize distinctions and uniqueness among ideas and concepts. Because the 9 coins are so specific as to what they are and what they are not, then you can have a sharp knife to determine what is or isn't a new concept. So basically, you have control over your mind, and your soul can potentially be over your mind. You're in on the joke, at least somewhat, where fear and pain are no longer making you their bitch. And one of the biggest things is that you have more sanity, and it's a more deep and profound sanity because you understand what is and isn't ticking you off. So key takeaways are that you are able to transcend the models of growth to just grow. And that touches on the fact that the map is not the territory. The model is not the only place for you to play. That the world, reality, is a friend to you that you can confront with your newfound knowledge or wisdom or information. You're able to face reality head on and make sense of it. Objective personality is fertilizing the soil for growth. So by learning the concepts in objective personality, you're able to plant future seeds of growth. Finally, you will have the ability to experience and learn the best way you know how. So given whatever your type is, you will understand how you learn and how you experience life in the best way. It's kind of like getting a car manual to the car that is you, because you have certain functions and now you know how you will be able to learn best and how you experience life in relation to other people. This is the last point: is with abundance, giving is natural. By understanding the abundance in an NE sense of having this model, having this understanding of psychology, your ability to now give from a place of peace is a lot stronger. You're a lot more capable. You have a lot more room to give because your sanity isn't so hard to cultivate. Because you know where your issues come from, you're able to help the people around you as well as yourself maintain your level of sanity, not get hurt by the latest and loudest pain causing situations, fear causing situations. Yeah, basically, with objective personality, you're able to develop abundance in yourself, in your own sanity, and it becomes natural to grow and give. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time if you did watch or listen to this. Um, I do have coaching links below. Now, I understand some people are going to want to go through it alone or go through it with friends. And I think it, you know, I'm not always going to pitch my coaching services that much, but basically, I think it's very advantageous to have someone who understands these coins and these concepts to coach you through what you're going through in life, what your experiences are. Maybe you are keeping an hour log, maybe you are keeping a journal or not, but making sense of the world around you can have a really profound effect over your future, and it helps you make sense of the past. I've definitely learned a lot about myself using this system, and I'm continuing to learn more and expand my knowledge of psychology. And it's going really well for me, but it wasn't without the pain, all those cycles and revolutions of going around the cycles of competence, consciousness, and all those things. It's never over. It is a journey. It's a continuous journey. In my opinion, you go through it many times. At least that's how it's going for me. So thank you for watching, and check out the coaching links if you're interested in growing or having someone offer feedback on how you're doing. Also, I'm very happy to just listen to what your story is and how you're going through life and whether typology and psychology is helping you at all. I hope everyone here has a positive and bright future ahead of them. And thank you so much again for watching. I am looking forward to making my next video, and let me know what other videos you want to see from me. I want to be producing videos every single week, so stay tuned for that. Let me know what you thought about the entire Onion Theory series. I'm probably going to redo this series again in a few years, so it'll be interesting to come back and see what we can get done here. Maybe this video series made sense or didn't for you, but I'm seeing it as a consistent model for growing using psychology, using objective personality. It is possible to grow and give for the next future decades. Thank you again. Have a good one. Like and subscribe. Cheers. Take care.